Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. You are always one decision, one habit, 1 week away from a completely different life. I ain't talking about no magic pill. I'm talking about doing real work, getting real results. And I'm telling you from experience, it doesn't take a lifetime. Sometimes it takes 1 week of commitment to set a brand new standard for yourself. Your life changes the moment your habits change. That might sound like a simple statement, but it's one of the most powerful truths I've ever lived. See, most people think life is changed by big moments, winning the lottery, getting discovered, finding the perfect opportunity. But I'm here to tell you it don't work like that. Real change, lasting change, it happens when you shift the small things you do every day. That's what creates momentum. That's what builds discipline, focus, and success. It doesn't happen overnight, but it sure as hell doesn't take a lifetime either. Sometimes one decision, one small shift in routine can be the start of something major. You just have to be willing to commit to that change. You just have to understand that the power to change your life is not out there in the world. It's already in your hand. It starts with your habits. You know what I discovered? That every successful person I've ever met had one thing in common. They built their lives around habits that served their goals. They didn't wait for motivation to hit. They didn't sit around talking about what they wanted to do someday. They created structure, and the structure created results. When you commit to a new habit, even if it's small, you're telling your future self, I care enough about you to get serious today. That's what changed me. I stopped negotiating with myself. I stopped hitting snooze on my dreams, and instead I decided to show up for my life like it mattered. Every day, whether I felt like it or not. And let me tell you, that decision flipped a switch inside of me. I used to think you had to feel inspired to act, that you had to be in the right mindset, in the perfect environment before you could really do the work. But no, that's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of growth. The truth is your life will always match the quality of your habits. If your habits are lazy, your life will be chaotic. If your habits are strong, disciplined, and focused, your life will begin to reflect that energy. Habits are not about perfection, they are about consistency. Show up for yourself every single day and see what happens. It's not going to be flashy at first. It won't always feel good, but it works. And what works consistently becomes powerful. One of the most surprising things I learned is how fast things began to shift when you change your habits. You expect it to take months or years, but often it only takes a few days for your mindset to start changing. The moment you follow through with a commitment to yourself, you start building trust with the person in the mirror. That trust is priceless, because once you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. You stop waiting for approval. You stop depending on outside validation. You stop looking for shortcuts and start showing up with real energy. That's how growth starts. That's how life begins to change. What I love most about this idea is that it puts the power back in your hands. You don't have to wait for someone to save you. You don't need the perfect timing or the perfect plan. You just need to make a decision, one new habit, one new standard, one shift in your thinking, and from there you keep showing up. You do it scared, you do it tired, you do it even when no one claps for you. Because eventually those habits start to build a new version of you. Stronger, wiser, more focused. And you begin to feel that shift in your energy. The world doesn't look different, but you feel different. And when you feel different, you move different. That movement is what creates results. That's where momentum begins. Morning routines shape the rest of your day. That's something I learned not just from books or successful people around me, but from living it. The way you start your morning sets the entire tone for how your mind, body, and spirit show up in the world. If you start the day feeling rushed, chaotic, scrolling your phone or reacting to every notification, guess what? That becomes the rhythm of your day. You spend your time reacting instead of creating, chasing instead of leading. But when you take control of your morning, even just the first 30 or 60 minutes, you take control of your life. You begin to build a sense of structure, clarity, and focus before the world even has a chance to interrupt your peace. That's why so many highly successful people swear by their mornings. They're not just trying to look productive, they're protecting their mental real estate before the day starts throwing punches. What I discovered is that a good morning doesn't have to be complicated. It's not about doing 10 things before sunrise or following some influencer's perfect checklist. It's about choosing a few powerful actions that ground you, energize you, and prepare you to win. For me, it began with simply waking up earlier. Not crazy early, just early enough that I wasn't rushing. That small decision changed everything. I wasn't reacting to my alarm anymore. I wasn't jumping into emails or conversations before I had even spoken to myself. I had space. That space gave me time to think, time to reflect, time to get in alignment with what mattered most to me. I wasn't just living on autopilot. I was deciding how I wanted to show up. Another powerful part of that morning routine was what I chose to focus on. I started by saying thank you. Before my feet touched the ground, I would speak out loud one thing I was grateful for. Sometimes it was big, like my family or the chance to do what I love. Other times it was small, like waking up healthy or the sound of birds outside. That one act of gratitude would shift my mindset. Instead of starting the day with stress or pressure, I started it with perspective. Gratitude reminds you that you already have something worth fighting for. It centers your mind, calms your nerves, and opens your heart to possibility. It makes everything that follows more meaningful. Then came the intention. I'd write down a few things I wanted to accomplish. Not a massive to-do list, just 3 clear priorities. When you name your focus, you stop getting distracted by things that don't matter. You stop getting caught up in other people's chaos. You start moving with purpose. You walk through the day like it belongs to you, not like you're borrowing it from somebody else. It's the power of intentionality. It's not loud, but it's steady, and that steadiness builds confidence. You begin to feel in control of your time, your choices, your direction. And once you feel that, everything else starts lining up. There's something sacred about choosing your energy before the world chooses it for you. When your morning has rhythm, your life starts to find rhythm too. You speak better, think clearer, respond smarter. You don't let small problems throw you off because you started your day in alignment with your vision. That foundation gives you something to stand on even when life throws uncertainty your way. People around you can feel the difference. You're calmer, more focused, less reactive, and they don't know it's because of what you did that morning, but you do. You know you made time to connect with yourself, to organize your thoughts, to speak life into your day before anyone else got to say. That quiet commitment, that private discipline becomes your advantage. It becomes the reason you walk through life with more peace and more purpose. No matter what's going on around you, the people around you influence your growth or destruction. This is a truth that hits hard when you finally realize how much of your energy, your mindset, and your progress is connected to the company you keep. For a long time, I thought I could do it all on my own. That no matter who I was around, I could keep my head straight and stay focused on my path. But eventually, I learned the hard way that even the strongest mindset can be weakened by the wrong environment. Conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, the standards people around you live by, all of that seeps into you slowly. Sometimes it's so subtle, you don't even notice until you look up one day and realize you've lost your fire. You started doubting yourself, or worse, you've begun settling for less than what you're truly capable of. There's something powerful about recognizing how relationships shape the quality of your life. When you're surrounded by people who are always negative, always complaining, always talking about why things can't be done, that becomes your emotional background noise, and it wears you down. You start thinking small without realizing it. You start questioning your ambition, hesitating on your dreams, and thinking maybe it's better to just play it safe. But that mindset doesn't come from inside you. It's borrowed from voices that never had the courage to chase what they wanted. Borrowed from people who gave up on themselves a long time ago, and now they try to talk you out of believing in you. On the other hand, when you place yourself around people who are striving, growing, challenging themselves and speaking life into their goals, everything changes. Suddenly dreaming big doesn't feel foolish, it feels normal. Hard work doesn't feel like a burden, it feels like the standard. When you're around people who hold themselves accountable, who push through fear and stay focused on their purpose, you absorb that energy, it rubs off on you. You start talking differently, thinking differently, walking differently. Your environment begins to elevate you without you even realizing it. That's the quiet power of community. It either lifts you higher or pulls you down. Sometimes the hardest part of growth is letting go of certain relationships. That doesn't mean you hate anybody or you wish them harm. It just means you love yourself enough to protect your space. Not everyone can go where you're going. Some people were only meant to be part of a certain chapter in your life, not the whole story, and that's okay. Growth means making decisions that feel uncomfortable in the short term but necessary for the long term. It means being intentional about who you give access to your time, your energy, your dreams, because those things are sacred. They deserve to be protected. When you're on a path of becoming better, you can't afford to be surrounded by people who drain you or keep you stuck in old habits. You need people who challenge you, who check you when you slack, who remind you of your potential when you start forgetting it. You need people who talk about ideas, not gossip. People who are more interested in solutions than problems. People who celebrate your wins and push you to keep going when you feel tired. But those people exist. But you have to be willing to seek them out and create that circle. You can have all the talent, ambition, drive in the world, but if you're constantly surrounded by people who live in fear, laziness, or bitterness, it will start to affect you. That's why it's not just about mindsets, about atmosphere. You can't grow strong roots in poisoned soil. You can't rise while you're carrying anchors. Choosing your circle is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make for your future. It's not always easy, and sometimes it gets lonely. But that space is where you'll finally start to hear your own voice again and align with who you were truly meant to be. Discipline beats motivation every single time. This lesson changed everything for me because for the longest time, I believed I needed to feel inspired in order to take action. I thought motivation was the fuel that would push me toward my goals, and I waited on it like people wait for perfect weather. I say, once I feel ready, I'll start, or when I'm motivated, I'll commit. But the truth is, motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unpredictable. Some days you wake up and you're ready to conquer the world, and other days you don't want to get out of bed. You can't build a successful life on something that disappears every time you feel tired, discouraged, or distracted. That's where discipline comes in, because discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's not about emotion. It's about commitment, consistency, and follow-through. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. It's getting up early when your body wants more sleep. It's finishing that project when your mind wants to scroll. It's choosing to eat clean, train hard, read books, and stay focused. Not because it's fun, but because you know who you're becoming through that process. Discipline is how you show respect to your future self. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're investing in a version of you that's stronger, wiser, more capable. You're saying to yourself, I'm serious about this. I'm not just dreaming, I'm working. I'm not just talking, I'm proving. What people don't tell you about discipline is that it's not born from motivation, it's born from clarity. When you know exactly why you're doing something, discipline becomes easier to hold on to. It's not about having superhuman willpower. It's about being clear on what matters most. When your why is strong, the how becomes manageable. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for the perfect mood. You simply do the work, and the consistency starts compounding. That's when you begin to separate from the pack, not because you're better, but because you're more consistent. The world rewards discipline in a way it never rewards potential. Talent might open the door, but discipline keeps you in the room. The other truth about discipline is that it builds confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. That trust is the foundation of confidence. You start to walk different because you know you've been putting in the work behind closed doors. You don't need validation, applause, or hype. You train yourself to show up, and that shows up in everything you do. Discipline teaches you how to master yourself, how to rise above the temporary, and how to keep your vision alive even when the journey gets hard. And it always gets hard. That's not the issue. The issue is whether you trained yourself to keep going anyway. When you rely only on motivation, you'll stop every time life punches you in the mouth. You'll give up every time you don't see instant results. You'll waste time starting and stopping, never building real momentum. But discipline makes you immovable. It keeps you on track when your emotions are all over the place. It gives you something to lean on when nothing else feels stable. That's what makes it more powerful than motivation. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. The spark might get you started, but it's the engine that takes you across the finish line. It's also important to understand that discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being committed. You'll slip up, you'll have bad days, you'll fall off track, but discipline gets you back up. It reminds you that one bad moment doesn't define your entire path. You don't have to start over every time you make a mistake. You just keep going, keep showing up, keep doing the work. That's what separates those who achieve their goals from those who only talk about them. Thinking gratitude aloud resets your mindset. That one habit alone has the power to shift the entire way you see your life, your challenges, and your future. There was a time when I used to think gratitude was just a soft feel, good idea that people threw around when they didn't want to face reality. But I was wrong. Gratitude isn't about ignoring your struggles. It's about choosing to see your life through a lens that empowers you instead of defeats you. And when you speak gratitude out loud, when you actually say the words with your voice, something powerful happens inside of you. You begin to interrupt the cycle of negativity, doubt, and fear that tries to run your thinking all day long. You take authority over your perspective. You remind yourself that even when everything is imperfect, something still is. Mind yourself that even when everything isn't perfect, something still is. The mind is like a battlefield, constantly under attack from outside influences. The news, social media, comparison, fear, anxiety. If you're not careful, you'll wake up every morning and start your day with a list of what's wrong, what's not working, what you lack. And when that becomes your dominant thinking, it affects the way you move. You carry stress, frustration, and discouragement before the day even begins. That's why gratitude has to be a daily, intentional act, and not just silent gratitude, but spoken. When you speak gratitude out loud, you hear it, you feel it, you reinforce it in your spirit. It becomes louder than the noise around you, and the more you practice that, the stronger your mindset becomes. I started doing this one small habit each morning. I would sit for just 2 minutes and say 3 things I was grateful for out loud. And I think about them, not write them down quietly. I spoke them, and at first it felt simple, too simple, but over time it changed everything. I started my mornings with power instead of pressure. I didn't need the perfect job or the perfect body or the perfect bank account to feel blessed. I realized I already had breath, strength, opportunity, and a brand new chance to grow. That gave me energy. That gave me clarity, and when your mind is clear, you start making better decisions. You stop operating from desperation and start moving with intention. Gratitude also builds resilience. Life will always throw challenges your way. You will face loss, disappointment, delays, rejection. It's all part of the process. But when you train yourself to look for what's still good, you bounce back faster. You don't spiral into hopelessness. You find something to hold on to, even in the middle of your worst season, and still say, I'm thankful for the lesson. That mindset is not weakness. It's strength, real strength, because anyone can be thankful when life is good. But when you can be thankful when life is messy, that's when you know you've grown. That's when you know your mindset is built on something deeper than just comfort or convenience. Another thing I've learned is that gratitude attracts more of what you want. When you focus on what you already have, you stop chasing everything out of lack. You start saying, I'll be happy when. And you start saying, I'm already blessed and I'm just getting started. That attracts opportunities, relationships, and ideas that are rooted in abundance instead of desperation. People want to be around energy like that. Life starts to respond to that energy, and it doesn't mean you start wanting more or growing. It means you stop hating where you are while you grow. Speaking gratitude aloud is a simple, powerful tool that grounds you in the present moment. It reminds you that you have more going for you than against you. It pulls you out of comparison. It shuts down fear. It builds faith. And most importantly, it reprograms your thoughts so that you can keep moving forward with hope, strength, and perspective. If you don't move, nothing moves. That principle applies to everything in life. Your goals, your mindset, your opportunities, your relationships, your success. Movement creates momentum. Action creates clarity. And yet so many people stay stuck waiting for something outside of themselves to change before they take the first step. They wait for motivation, for the perfect plan, for someone to believe in them, for fear to disappear. But the truth is nothing in your life will shift until you do. You can't think your way into a new season. You have to move your way into it. You have to be willing to take uncomfortable steps, to push past the hesitation, to do something even if it's small, that signals to life that you're serious about becoming better. One of the greatest lies people believe is that they need to feel fully ready before they begin. But readiness comes through action, not before it. You might not have all the answers. You might be unsure of the outcome, but doing nothing guarantees you stay where you are. When you decide to move physically, emotionally, mentally, you start waking up parts of yourself that have been dormant. That first step may not seem like much, but it sends a message to your brain, to your body, and to your spirit that you're ready to grow. And once you get moving, it gets easier to keep moving. The hardest part is almost always the beginning. That moment when you feel with doubts and fear and you choose to take action anyway, that's where the power is. Even something as simple as getting up and taking a walk, stretching, cleaning your space, writing down your thoughts, all of that creates motion in your life. And when you move your body, you shift your energy. You stop feeling stuck. You start generating new thoughts, new ideas, and sometimes even new solutions to problems that felt too big just a few minutes before. That's the beauty of movement. It doesn't just change your surroundings. It changes you, it breaks the pattern of passivity and sparks a new rhythm of intention. So when you feel overwhelmed, anxious, lost, or uninspired, the best thing you can do is move. Not sit, not scroll, not overthink. Move. This principle also applies to your dreams and goals. Some people spend years planning and preparing but never execute. They wait for the perfect moment that never comes, but movement doesn't require perfection. It requires courage. The best ideas in the world are worthless without action. The people you admire didn't get where they are because they had perfect conditions. They got there because they took consistent steps forward. They failed, learned, adjusted, and kept moving. Progress doesn't happen in silence. It happens through showing up again and again. You don't need to sprint. You just need to keep stepping. And over time, those small steps add up to big shifts. Movement also helps you build confidence. Confidence isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you earn through repetition. Every time you take action, even if you're unsure or afraid, you strengthen your belief in yourself. You prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. You can handle pressure. You can start, follow through, and grow. That self-trust builds over time, and the more you move, the more you be. It becomes a cycle of momentum that fuels your growth. If you sit in the same place mentally, emotionally, or physically, you begin to shrink. Your world gets smaller, your energy dims, but when you decide to move in any form, you invite change. You open the door to new possibilities. You might not be able to control every outcome, but you can always control your motion. and that motion is what leads to transformation. That's the beginning of building a new mindset, a new routine, a new life. The key is not to wait until you're no longer afraid. The key is to move while you're afraid to move.